When we talk about the West Philippine Sea, it's so easy to get lost in the big picture: geopolitics, maps, military ships. But this story, it's about something way more fundamental. It's a fight for food, for family, and for a way of life that's literally vanishing from beneath the waves. To really get what's going on, we have to listen to the voices from the shore. And this is one of those voices. This is Tolomeo Fornos, a 70-year-old retired fisherman. He remembers a time, and it wasn't that long ago, when Scarborough Shoal was a shared place. You had Filipino, Vietnamese, and Chinese fishers all working the same waters. And the sea, well, the sea always provided. It was tough work, for sure, but it was a life you could actually count on. And the numbers from back then really paint a picture. Mr. Ferrone says he used to earn up to $705 a trip. Think about that. Enough to pay your debts with money left over. Now, fast forward to today, look at the reality for fishermen like Philip Makapanas. His earnings per trip? Just $34. That is a staggering, catastrophic drop. This isn't just a decline, it's a total collapse of a livelihood. So what on earth happened? Well, to understand that, we've got to zoom out from these personal stories and look at the sea itself, because those waters that once sustained whole communities have now become one of the most tense geopolitical flashpoints on the entire planet. Okay, this map right here. This is the heart of the conflict. This red line is China's 9-dash line. It's a claim that carves out about 90% of the South China Sea for themselves. And as you can see, it cuts right through the Philippines' 200-mile exclusive economic zone, or EEZ. That's an area where, under international law, the Philippines is supposed to have the sole right to fish and explore for resources. All this simmering tension finally boiled over in 2012. There was this really tense standoff at Scarborough Shoal. After that, China started to tighten its grip, basically pushing Filipino fishermen out of their own traditional fishing spots. So what did the Philippines do? They didn't send warships. Nope. In 2013, they took the fight to court. I mean, think about it. Outmatched militarily, outmatched economically, the Philippines turned to the one thing it had: international law. They took their case to the Permanent Court of Arbitration. It was a true David versus Goliath fight on the world stage. And in 2016, the ruling came down, and it was just a stunning, overwhelming victory for the Philippines. The court said there was no legal basis for that 9-dash line. It confirmed the Philippines' rights within its own EEZ, and it found that China had violated those rights by interfering with Filipino fishing. A total win. A landmark legal victory, right? Well, then came the response. Just a week before the ruling even came out, a former top Chinese official declared that the decision would be nothing more than a piece of paper. And when it was released, China officially called the ruling null and void. So here is the gut punch, the huge paradox. The fishermen had hoped this ruling would finally protect them, but instead, the complete opposite happened. China just escalated its presence, sending more ships, building up islands, and setting up military bases. The legal win on paper actually led to a much more dangerous reality on the water. And the consequences of that new reality, oh, you can measure them. Let's dig into the hard data that shows the true cost of this conflict for the Philippines. This chart just lays out the economic hit perfectly. The total value of fish production from the three main regions that depend on the West Philippine Sea, it dropped by 11% in the decade after 2011. We're talking about a drop from $1.45 billion down to $1.27 billion. That's a massive loss. And it gets even worse when you look at specific types of fish. The contribution of really crucial reef fish, the kind that are the lifeblood of these local fishermen, has plummeted by over 40% in just 2 decades. The bounty of the sea is literally disappearing before their eyes. And of course, a loss of fish translates directly into a loss of jobs. Between mid-2021 and mid-2022 alone, an estimated 17,000 marine jobs just vanished. That's 17,000 families losing their main way of making a living. And at the same time, the presence of foreign ships is just undeniable. A study just this year detected 77 Chinese-flagged vessels linked to illegal fishing operating right inside the Philippines' EEZ. And here's the kicker. Experts warn that number is probably a huge underestimate because a lot of these ships just turn off their tracking systems. But beyond all the numbers, there's this incredible psychological toll. Vessel Captain Henrito M. Pock puts it so simply. Each trip feels like walking into a trap. Fishermen are talking about constant harassment. Everything from having their catches stolen to being blasted by water cannons. They're being made to feel like thieves in their own home waters.
So, faced with this escalating crisis, the strategy is now shifting. The Philippines and its allies are trying to build a new kind of response, right there on the water.
Just recently, the Philippines and the United States announced something new. Task Force Philippines. What is it? Well, it's a joint initiative. It's designed to ramp up operational cooperation, improve their planning together, and ultimately strengthen deterrence in the region. And the stated goal, coming directly from Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., is pretty clear. The hope is that all this military cooperation won't actually escalate the situation, but that it'll somehow lower the tensions that have made life so dangerous for the fishermen. Which, brings us right back to where we started. High-level task forces are one thing, but the daily reality for these fishing communities, it's still a struggle for survival. It's a right that was won on paper, but it's still being fought for, every single day on the water. For families like Philip Macapana's, all those geopolitical strategies feel a million miles away. To survive, they're being forced to take out these high-interest loans. Get this, they borrow $440 from the bank, but they have to pay back $560 within a year. It's a debt trap, plain and simple, and it's happening while they face constant threats just trying to do their jobs. And all of this leaves us with one fundamental question. The Philippines secured a historic legal victory, a clear, definitive statement of its rights under international law. But for the fishermen whose entire lives depend on these waters, that victory is still just an idea. The real question is, what will it take to finally translate that right on paper into a reality on the water?